Chapter 20 of Almond-Blossom. This Librivox Recording is in the public domain. Almond-Blossom by Wadsley. Chapter 20. Thou givest thy laughter only unto one. He hath no eyes to see. Give when his bitter jest with thee is done, thy tears to me. Mary Colander. Nicholas sauntered in to Rex after lunch. Rex was just changing to go down to the river. He was pulling on a blazer as Nicholas stated bitterly, "Here's a pretty go." Rex looked at him. He had a letter in his hand. "It's from mother. Here." Rex read it. He was conscious that Nicholas was whistling between his teeth, strolling about and moving things, looking for a certain brand of cigarettes. He folded the letter and said composedly, "There, in that porcelain box. I say, Nicholas, I shall go up to town." "What for?" Nicholas asked, his mouth full of cake. "Oh, I must," Rex answered, and began changing into town kit swiftly. It was, however, not until after 8 that he managed to reach Berkeley Square. He asked for Doro. "I believe Miss Greville's in the gardens, sir," the butler said. "She asked for the key a little while back." "I'll go across," Rex said. He saw a white dress in the bloomy darkness, and walked in that direction. He halted near and called, "Doro!" His heart leapt wildly as he heard the gladness in her voice. "Rex, you?" "I." He went and sat on the green-painted curved seat beside her. He wanted to shake hands, but his hands were trembling. All of him had trembled at her voice. He put his entire will into the effort to obtain complete mastery of himself again. All the way up in the train he had been practising his part in this scene. He had conceived his role to be first that of a listener. Then little by little they would discuss everything very quietly, and then he would tell her the real object of his visit. He had written to her as soon as he had heard of Pan's death. He had written again and again and received no answer. It had been impossible by his father's orders for him to leave Oxford. Doro had never received his letters. He was wholly uncertain of her attitude towards Pan. It was impossible for him, knowing so little, to rank her affection at its value. But he felt, when he thought of Pan, that still black hatred which is like lightning striking the steel of a man's nature. Pan was dead, but he had injured Doro by his death, and indirectly that injury had driven her to this. Rex said now, leaning a little forward, his hands gripped one within the other, "Are you going to tell me?" "There isn't anything to tell except that I leave for Paris tomorrow with Cavigni and his wife." "You're going away?" Rex asked almost vacantly. "So soon?" "Yes, I imagined you had heard and had come to say good-bye. Tony refuses to see me again." She turned to him, and he knew there were tears in her eyes. He put out his hand and let it rest secretly on her dress. Just to touch her so gave his anxiety rest, seemed to heal his desperate longing a little. A tear fell on his hand, as if it had been a key unlocking the gates of his pent-up passion. Words rushed to his lips. He heard them, recognized the violence of his pleading abasement, almost with self-amazement, but he would not draw back now. It was only when Doro's reiterated cry, "Rex, oh Rex," reached his mind through its encompassing blaze of passionate adoration that he faltered and stopped. About them there was that stillness which a garden can hold in the midst of a hurrying world. The fragrant peace was like a keen mockery to Rex. He moved restlessly, and as he did so Doro rose. He too stood up. "Don't go," he said hoarsely. "Don't go yet. Don't leave me like this." "But everything is spoilt. You don't understand. Oh, why did you tell me this?" he said, very low and breathless. "Beautiful, don't you realize I couldn't help myself? I didn't mean to tell you anything. I came just to try and comfort you, and then you cried, and I could see your face in the dusk, and about you there clings some scent, and it drifted into my brain. I think you were all sweetness and tired loveliness. Don't, oh, don't." She did not mean to be cruel, but this scene with Rex was an anticlimax. It was almost incredible, and yet it was true. Love, such love as this, which spent itself in words of wildest adoration, which abased itself utterly. Rex, the boy she had laughed at, known so well with easy affection. She was angry if she was definitely anything, and yet angry and sorry at once. He had thrust upon her a burden she felt, when already she was bowed down with weariness. He began an impetuous speech. "Please, please," she said. He gave a little bitter laugh. The sheer banality of that word was cruel, as banality always is, must be, to young love. You can't leave me like this, dismiss my love with a please, as if it were an offering so paltry you could refuse it as you refuse a servant's offer of a new dish. It does not matter to you. It is my life, all my life, do you hear?" "You think so now," Doro said bitterly, hurt in her turn by his denunciation. She made a great effort to be kind, to overcome her weary consternation, and help Rex if she could. "Rex, dear, don't you see?" she said gently. I have finished with love. I can't talk about it, even to you." He faced her with white stubbornness. His own love was all that mattered. "You never knew love. You never met it," he burst out, contempt, appeal, anguish beating behind his low voice. "I don't care what you say, how you feel. You must listen. I know this is true. I know I am right. Love which is real, which will last, is love like mine. Young, as you call it, mocking at it for its youth, that youth which gives it half its wonder. For it is young love which loves, and never counts the loving or the giving or the suffering. Other love, later love, doesn't do that, cannot. Later love compares and contrives, and there is no headlong divinity about it, either of passion or foolishness. It's just a sort of emotion that's often rather furtive, and afraid to let go, and uncertain if it will last itself. As I love you, I should never love again. All love that comes after a love like this will be only half real. All that is real and true and willing and humble and proud in me beats in my love for you. And you turn aside from it because it is young. There's one thing." His voice held smothered bitterness. "It's a fault I'll grow out of." "Oh, why will you? Oh, Rex, don't be so difficult, so hard. Rex, I'm so unhappy." Rex's breath caught in his throat. He was at that instant very near to tears himself. Then he stammered in a whisper, "Oh, my darling, my beautiful, don't. I can't bear you to be unhappy." He put his arms around her so gently they scarcely touched her, and yet gave her the impression they were a protection, just as he had meant they should. Yet in that chivalrously tender gesture he could feel Doro trembling, and every atom of adoring virility in him thrilled to that knowledge. "But I am," Doro said like a child. As if she had been a child he soothed her. He made her tell him all her plans. But he had his arms about her, and as they spoke together his clasps grew a little closer. His face was near to hers in the soft gloom. That scent of which he had spoken almost despairingly thrilled him now with its sweetness. "There isn't anything else to do, Rex," she told him despairingly. "I cannot go back to Hurstpoint, and Ione, of course she does not want me." "You could marry me," Rex said with fictitious calmness, "and be free." "I mean it," he added fixedly. "I would give you my word. I came here tonight on purpose to tell you that. It was the real reason for my coming. Doro, will you do it?" "No, and no," she said, breaking from him. Do you suppose one forgets like that?" He tried to regain the old trust, but it was impossible now. In silence they walked to the house and bade good-bye. Rex held Doro's hand against his heart. "Always," he said. "Like that. Do you understand? And I shall never give you up. Good-bye." End of chapter 20. Recording by Maricel Kui.